Hello, welcome to the Suburban Dad. I'm Tim, and today I have my first guest, Father Michael Grosch. Fellow bourbon enthusiast, I am a dad of 2 little kids. Father Grosch is a dad of sorts.
500 kids.
Of the spiritual nature. So, super excited to have him on the show today, and we've got 2 great bottles to review. We're going to talk about Maker's special release from last year, SE4+PR5, and then this year's spring release, FAE-01. Let's dive in. So, Father, what do you think of the Maker's line in general? Because they got a broad range from their very basic bottle to a couple different cask strengths and now the special releases.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say, Makers and I have sort of a mixed history. So actually, Maker's Mark was the first distillery that I ever visited. And the reason for that is because I went on a retreat in near Loretto, Kentucky, which is home to the Sisters of Loretto, but also Maker's Mark, right? Nice. And so after my retreat, I was able to go on a little tour of the distillery. I had had Maker's previous to that, but I had just had the basic 90 proof one. Sure. And it was good, but I didn't really know what I was dealing with. Hadn't really tried a whole lot of the other ones, and so I ended up doing the tasting there. Again, still didn't really know what I was talking about with a lot of it. So, I mean, the 90 proof one was what I had been exposed to before. I really enjoyed the Maker's 46 line.
Yes, I'm a big fan.
With those, the 46 stave profile, which is in a lot of their other, like the special selection ones.
Oh, yes.
But I kind of let it go after I started getting into some different kinds of bourbon, a little bit more exposure to what's out there.
Sure.
But then I had a store pick that actually was just from one of our Total Wine stores real close by.
Yeah.
And it blew me away. I mean, like what they did with the different barrel staves and that sort of thing. And so I really, really enjoyed that. And then when I saw the opportunity to pick up the SE4+PR5, I did so, really enjoyed that. And then I got the FAE, but I have not tried it yet.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, we both get to try it for the first time. And we're going to compare and contrast and see which one we like better. Mm-hmm. And I believe the special releases and the store picks are all from the cask strength that they've added different staves to it.
Exactly. So the Maker's 46 is that specific profile of stave, right? The way that they toast it. It's just the number 46 stave, right? But and the same is true actually with the SE4 and is one stave, and then PR5 is another stave. I think one of them is like French oak and the other one is American oak that have both been toasted in different ways. And then so I think the original Makers is then sort of barreled in with some of those staves, let sit, and then they blended them for the SE4+PR5. Yeah. The FAE I think is a little bit different, but it's again it's the same sort of idea.
Yeah. Well, that many different staves allows them to play with the flavor profile and do all kinds of different stuff. So that's pretty neat. So let's go ahead and dive in with some pours. This is the SE4+PR5. So this one comes in at 110.8 proof. And of course, Makers has that signature red wax on all their bottles.
That's right.
And if you go to the distillery, you can even dip your own bottles, which I've yet to do, but it sounds fun.
It's pretty cool.
Once in a while, in the wild, you can find what they call a slam dunk bottle, where you can see these are nice and tidy up towards the top, but once in a while somebody gets a little clumsy and dunks more of the bottle in. You got this huge piece of wax on it.
That was a nice
That was
pop.
a very good
That was
cork
good.
noise.
I like that.
Yeah, very good effect. All right, so let's jump in with the SE4+PR5. Let's get a whiff of the nose first. So classically, Makers typically has a very fruity flavor. Some of their bottles are sweeter than others, but generally always a fruit forward. And this one's no different. It's got, I mean, I definitely get fruit notes on there.
I get a lot of baking spice out of it. You know, sort of a, I don't know.
Yes. Yeah, it's not
caramely sort of.
Again, it's not overly sweet, but it has that fruity, and yeah, I definitely get spice in there. For 110 proof, I mean, it's not an overwhelming ethanol scent either.
It doesn't blast you away.
Which is nice. Still got your nose hairs intact.
That's right.
So yeah, let's go ahead and have a sip. Man, that is a nice pour. Again, for 110 proof, you would expect it to have a little bit more punch, but it's nice. It's not boring, but it's not a slap in the face either.
I really got a lot of like that sort of vanilla note that was coming, especially with the that I kind of picked up in the nose, but that really came out in the tasting. I don't know, did you get any of that?
Now that you mention that, I can smell more of the vanilla. If I kind of don't put my nose right over it, it's a little too much. If I stay on the outskirts, I get more of the vanilla. Yeah, it starts with vanilla, then all of a sudden the spice shows up. It's got a good finish to it. It stays around. Yeah, good mouthfeel. It's nice and creamy.
Yeah, I would agree. To me, it kind of comes off a little bit dry in some ways.
Yeah, especially the finish. The longer you let it sit there, it is dry out at the end for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So again,
pretty good.
It is. It's a nice balance between the fruit, vanilla, and the dry. So yeah.
I think it got some of the best reviews for some of the limited releases in general from last year. People were saying that the wood finishing series was one of the best releases among all distilleries and stuff. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was last year's. Now we got 2021's first release. And so this one also, this is 110.6 proof, so pretty dang close. Oh wow, I get a lot of butterscotch or caramel right off the bat on the nose here.
This one is a lot fruitier to me. I saw a quote when they were talking about this, that they said that the bottle tastes like the rick house smells. And I was thinking that as I was going into this, and that was one of the enduring memories for me when I visited the Maker's Mark distillery. I was able to just go and see one of those rick houses, and it just it's perfect. And this, they're not wrong.
Okay.
So
okay, for sure the fruit is there, like a mix of strawberry and cherry. Yeah.
Ready?
Let's have a
Cheers.
taste. Whew. That one gives more of a punch to me.
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Even though they're pretty similar proof.
They are almost exactly the same proof, but this one's a lot more bold.
Tastes a lot sweeter to me than the other one did, the SE4+PR5.
Yeah. And especially, again, just letting it linger there for a minute, it does not have nearly the dry finish like the other one. Okay, let's try it again. Yeah, see, to me, I do get some fruit, but that second sip, really a lot of caramel at first. Same kind of pattern as the other one, where starts off with a flavor, and then all of a sudden the spice kicks in a big way.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it also, to me, it tastes a little thinner than the SE4PR5, but
Yep. I agree with that.
not necessarily.
Still not bad, but
Yeah, sometimes when you talk about, a whiskey tasting thin, it's kind of a bad thing, In this case, I don't really, it's not terribly different.
yeah, it doesn't really detract from the flavor profile.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, these are 110 proof. I know we both typically like higher proof stuff. Are there particular proofs that you automatically start adding water or ice, or do you ever add water or ice?
That's a good question, and I have sort of like different scenarios where I do, right? So, typically, what I've kind of gotten into the practice of doing more recently is, especially for the first taste, of the evening, I'll kind of, maybe add just one ice cube or a little bit of water. Just to kind of warm up the taste buds,
Right. Ease into it a little bit.
But then, I usually like it neat.
Yes.
But then sometimes at those higher proofs, you kind of need a little bit of something to temper it a little bit. And sometimes I even find that it brings out especially the nose a lot more with some of those higher proofs.
Certainly. There's a difference between, I can drink this and it doesn't make me cough, versus I drink this and I get a lot more of the flavor.
Right. And that's why I like water in it, because it sort of brings out the larger, the flavor and just the nuances of it.
I think for me, I was thinking about this today. I like the Old Forester 1920, which is 115 proof, and Old Ezra 7-year, which is 117 proof.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those, I prefer adding just a small ice chip or two to kind of open it up a little bit. So I think for me, anything above 110 proof is when I start to gravitate towards that.
Yeah, I would say that's about the same for me. I mean, I could probably, but for me, I think 110 versus 115 doesn't really matter a whole lot.
Not that far off, right?
But once I get above 115 and definitely into the 120 range, that's where I typically go for it a little bit. Yeah.
Yes. Like these, I could kind of go either way. Right now, I'm enjoying them neat.
Mm-hmm.
It would be interesting to try it in the future again with a little bit of ice, just to try and open it up a little bit more. Now, sometimes it's been my experience, you can put water ice in and it actually makes it worse.
Yeah, and that's also true.
Yeah.
And then there's the other circumstances where you have something that, is nice enough that you really don't want any water in it, So for example, I might put a little bit, of something in like Elijah Craig barrel proof.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great bourbon.
Right.
But if I was going to have, a glass of Stag Junior, I wouldn't touch it with water.
Right.
It's good enough on its own. It doesn't really need any of that, but it's also, it's enjoyable in that sense. So it kind of varies.
Sure. Yeah. And I'm the same way. It does depend on the bottle. Even it's not a strict rule depending on the proof. It comes down to the bottle a lot of times. Mm-hmm. But both, Elijah Craig and Stag Junior and Stag are all three tend to be very high proof, high 120s, even into the 130s. Mm-hmm. So you would think, holy cow, it's going to set your mouth on fire, which can. I remember trying the Elijah Craig barrel proof. It was 130 something.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And that one I was able to take a sip, but it was not pleasant until I put the ice cube in it. So
you have to kind of warm up to it a little bit.
Can I do it? Yeah, but is it really an experience? No, it's just pain.
I think too, it's worth saying, because, some people listening to this are going to be like, oh, you lightweights, like that sort of, and other people might be hearing this and saying, gosh, well, I always drink mine with a full, cup of ice. Mm-hmm. And I think it's worth saying, the best way to drink bourbon is the way you like it.
Yes.
So I've heard that many times, and I believe it's true.
At first I was a purist. I thought, oh, I like it neat. But now, yes, I realize sometimes you need to open it up. Sometimes people prefer it differently than and I'm trying to be more accepting of that. So yes, I agree with you on that one.
Absolutely.
Now, between these two, is there a clear winner so far in your mind? I know I kind of have to revisit them. Yeah, it's amazing how different they can be with very similar stats and yet be so
I
different.
like them for different reasons.
Yeah.
I think that the SE4+PR5 is kind of winning out for me a little bit. Maybe it's because this is also a fresh crack too. You know, that
it's true.
You know, the FAE, it tastes just a little bit thin on that. And I think maybe if it airs out a little bit, maybe it would
It's true.
improve a little bit.
Yeah.
But they're both good. I definitely would enjoy a glass of both.
Oh yeah, I mean, easy. So these are both around. I think we got these for about 55 each.
60, yeah.
And then, I mean, I've seen them in the 60s. Then they start to get a little priced at that point. I mean,
secondary I think is around in 70s, 80s, even 90s.
Yeah, they're really good, but yeah, that's. I don't see myself paying more than 70. Right. Very, very good for the price, though. $55 plus tax.
That's great.
Yeah, it's very great.
Bottle.
I have to agree with you. Just when I'm drinking the SE4+PR5, it's a little more gentle. But see, I don't just go for mellow bourbon, so I hate to even use that as my defining factor. But I guess I'm just able to appreciate the palate more since it isn't so in my face compared to the FAE.
It would be
it's
interesting.
A smoother entry.
Yeah.
To start, and it is a little more full.
It would be interesting to me to taste the FAE in about a month and see how if it still hits me that way or if it's a little bit different.
Yeah. Now, one thing that I'd recommend for you is to do your own blind testing.
Ooh.
That's something I've been experimenting with lately. It is eye-opening.
Really?
You think you know your taste buds and can identify the bottle, and you think you know which one you like, but do you really?
I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm that brave with some of this stuff.
Well, so I think in this case, at least with the first pour, which is called the neck pour, so the neck of the bottle, they call it the neck pour. So far, SE4+PR5 is winning out, but we'll see how FAE turns out as it sits for a little bit.
Both good. Both really good.
Both very good. Both absolutely worth the price. Yeah. So thank you for watching, and thank you for following the channel. If you don't already, go ahead and subscribe and like the video. And thank you to Father Grosch for coming out today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Until next time, cheers.